The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus entered a village where a woman whose name was Martha welcomed him. She had a sister named Mary who sat beside the Lord at his feet, listening to him speak. Martha, burdened with much serving, came to him and said, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me by myself to do all the serving? Tell her to help me." The Lord said to her in reply, "Martha, Martha, you are anxious and worried about many things. There is need for only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, and it will not be taken from her." The Gospel of the Lord. Choosing the better part and letting it be, not taken from us, but a part of our very action and lives as Christians. Well, my soul checked out missing as I sat listening to the hours and minutes ticking away. Yes, just sitting around waiting for my life to begin. Well, it was all just slipping away eventually. Well, these are the lyrics from the great Bruce Springsteen in a song called Better Days. Came out in the early 90s, this song, and it was part of an album, I think, by the same name, Better Days. The song talks about a relationship where we can hope for and work for better days, a better situation. You might even say, in light of today's gospel, a better part. There's a way in which you and I might want to think about the readings that we have on this Sunday, the 16th Sunday in Ordinary Time, because all of them are asking us to look for and hope for better days, but not just hoping God gives them to us, gratuitously, although God's grace is gratuitous, believe me, but that with that grace we can then work for a better part, for better days, for a better situation. This week there's the first reading where Abraham and Sarah, in their old age, living with much disappointment, especially about not being able to have a child, a very difficult and painful often situation for couples. They are frustrated and so on and so forth, but they aren't letting that impair them or hold them back from being who they need to be, especially by way of their tradition and custom of hospitality, an important part of their culture, an important part of their faith, to offer hospitality, especially to strangers. And so they welcome these three strangers who turn out to be messengers from God, who then say to them, "We will return in a year, and there will be better days for you, better things." Hope in that. Choose that belief, that faith, that better part of faith, and it will bring you, by God's blessing and action, better days. But you have to hope in that. And they make that choice, and of course a year later they have their heir, and they're able to live that blessing of God for the rest of their lives. Today's gospel is an interesting situation because you have two women choosing very different roles, parts, you might say, in this story. They make different choices for themselves, Martha and Mary, sisters, who, again, offering hospitality to Jesus and maybe some of his followers, maybe some of their own kinsmen are there. I would suspect that by tradition, Jesus shows up as this itinerant rabbi and that he's there to teach the men, that there's some room or common space where the men are listening to him. Mary makes a choice for herself to put herself into that space, probably violating rules and customs that were common there. She's not going to play the typical female role. Her sister Martha makes that choice. They're both good choices, don't get me wrong. But Martha's not happy about her sister's choice, and of course she says something to Jesus. And Jesus says, she's chosen a better part. She's choosing something else, and I think it's a good thing. He, in some ways, endorses Mary's violation of the customs, letting her be encouraged, and maybe even, and obviously encouraging Martha to do the same, to step into a space where they can learn and listen and have a presence with God. And so I think there's a way in which you and I might want to consider for ourselves how it is that we can make that choice for ourselves, to choose a better part, putting ourselves in the presence of God and in one another, practicing a hospitality in a world right now that's terribly inhospitable, where in fact cruelty and chaos and incompetence seem to reign, you and I all the more are called as Christians, I think, to exercise a kind of hospitality, maybe to strangers as Abraham and Sarah do, or certainly to those who will offer us a positive message and a hope as Jesus does to this family of Martha and Mary. And so, friends, I think we might want to consider for ourselves that we have and can choose better days by choosing to put ourselves in the presence of God and pay attention and listen, and not just let our life slip away. That old song of Bruce Springsteen's, I've been listening to a little more Springsteen since he released his lost albums, those songs that he wrote in between recording other songs. I always appreciate when people my age or older can make a lot of money off of something they did 40 years ago, right? That song made it to number 2 on the mainstream rock track back in the early 90s, Better Days. And there's a stanza in that song that goes like this: every fool's got a reason for feeling sorry for himself and about turning his heart to stone. Tonight this fool's halfway to heaven and just a mile out of hell. And so there's a way in which I think you and I can resign ourselves to not choose a better day or choose a better part. And instead we can let ourselves listen maybe, but let our lives slip away. Or we can go with the grace that God gives us in the presence of God, listening and paying attention and understanding that there is something here that's certainly halfway to heaven and not a choice to live some kind of hell, right? That you and I can always choose to create, with God's grace and our good effort, a better day by choosing a better part, listening in the presence of God, welcoming one another, and living that Christian life in the fullest possible way today for a better part and a better day. Amen.